in a house where everyone has the right to speak, to be heard, and in a house where all the conventions ought to be followed. Mr. Speaker, these conventions were established on ethics, on solid principles. These conventions may not be written ones, but they have been adhered to long before any one of us came into this parliament. In fact, I follow in the footsteps of an illustrious son of this soil and a well-known parliamentarian who has enjoyed one of the longest stays in this house, my father, Vindhya Persaud. I would like to say clearly that he has given his life to ensure that Parliament remains an institution, an arena where people will be allowed to speak. When I hear and when I see and when I am confronted about what occurred today, it disturbs me. It saddens me, Mr. Speaker. We're told that not only will the conventions be flouted, we are told that 73(1) of the standing orders will not be adhered to. How can you do this when the very same members, most of you, were in the last parliament and you requested of the PPPC government not only 5 days, not only 6 days, but 7 days. 12 days, thank you. These days were given to you, and you were given the wherewithal to ask as you wished. You were allowed to request any document that you wish. The thing is, you were given the time. The thing is, the PPPC did not allow Standing Order 73(1) to be thrown in the garbage. Is that what I'm hearing today? That for this entire budget, we'll be given 3 days. 3 days. With all of the changes made, the largest budget with all of the adjustments made, just 3 days. My good friend, my colleague, Minister Valder Lawrence, who I have a tremendous respect for, spoke of the word transparency. While I was very happy to hear of some of the policies that you mentioned and some of the initiatives that you will be implementing.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize. I apologize for interrupting the Speaker. I am somewhat puzzled because I believe that in ruling a little while ago on the motion before you, you drew our attention to 73(1). And the Speaker has...
Is this a point of order?
Yes, the Speaker is
please,
alleging...
Please recite the point of order.
The Speaker is alleging that we have thrown 73(1) into the dustbin. 73(1) sets a maximum limit. Nothing that is happening now and nothing about your decision, nothing in your decision contests 73(1). So I would like, as a point of fact, the Speaker, Mr. Speaker, it is either a point of fact or is it not? 73(1) is being infringed or not? That is what I'm asking.
Every time we have a disagreement and an interruption.
I thank the honourable member for his statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I merely said I am disappointed in your request. The Speaker ruled as he has the prerogative to do, but you requested it. What are you telling us? That you don't want to hear our questions? That you don't want to be accountable not only to us, but to the people of this country?
Remember, direct your remarks to the chair.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, does this government not want the people of Guyana to know what they have in the budget? What they have added in the budget? Mr. Speaker, if you prevent people from asking questions, where is the transparency that you speak of? Where is the democracy that you request? Mr. Speaker, I urge you to exercise your wise counsel and guide my colleagues on the other side of the House so that in the future we will not have to deal with this type of inequity. I feel very disheartened if this is how, in this very early period of our Parliament, we are going to proceed. If this is the good life, if this is the change of which you speak. And if this is the fresh approach that you tout, well then I say to my fellow Guyanese, God help us. We will help you, my fellow Guyanese. We will stand with you as we've done. We will represent you, my fellow Guyanese. But I say, hold the government accountable. If you want questions to be asked of them, give us your questions. We will pose them. Let us see if when we ask those questions, we will get the response that should be given. Further to that, it has been brought to my attention that tomorrow we will flout that convention of which I speak yet again, where the opposition leader is the penultimate speaker on the final day of the budget. Has this, Mr. Speaker, been the level to which we have sunk ourselves? Have we descended, degenerated to such a level that we are going to flout that convention? The father of which I spoke of so proudly was one of the persons in this house who wound up the debates, who wound up those debates acting as the penultimate speaker. Why do you want to muzzle our opposition leader? You know what? I am betting that by tomorrow we will have a volte-face and we will see a turnaround because of the pressure applied here today. But I will say, no, it's wisdom. Stick to those conventions. Show that you are magnanimous, but more than ever, show that we all deserve the title of honorable, which is bestowed on us when we become members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, Guyana was on a steady course of growth and development over the last 2 decades, a process of an enabling climate driven by the PPPC administration. That climate, that enabling climate and environment encouraged Guyanese of all walks of life to own their own homes, to move towards entrepreneurial avenues, and to work towards personal development. It saw the creation of numerous initiatives to improve so many facets of their lives, to tackle compelling social issues. And one of the things I pride myself on is that I use good indicators. So I'll take you right back to the Millennium Development Goals, which are tangible indicators of what our government achieved over 2 decades. The proportion of people who suffer from hunger was halved. Reduction of the prevalence of undernourishment from 19.1% pre-92 went below 5.1% post-2013. The proportions of persons living in extreme poverty declined from 28.7% pre-1992 to less than 18% post-2008. Those are not my figures. Those are the Millennium Development Goals. And as I said, they stand as tangible indicators of 2 decades of progress, solid progress. Mr. Speaker, with the advent of the 2015 budget, fueled by expansive promises made to the electorate by the current government, many of which were to be fulfilled within 100 days since they assumed office, expectations ran high. The reality, while not everyone may have seen the film, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, many will agree with me when I say after May 16, we had a real-life experience of almost 4 months of fumble and a budgetary bungle. And the promises, Mr. Speaker, they have receded into a litany of broken recordings. We can't, not now, not this budget. So then when? I am humbled to be a member of this National Assembly and to once again be given the privilege and the opportunity to represent all Guyanese in matters which impact on their life directly or indirectly. Every Guyanese yearns for economic advancement as it ushers in the security of home ownership and the accessibility to amenities and services. And also it improves one's quality of life and ultimately creates stability in the homes. Even if that is achieved, all of it could be negated if persons live in fear for not only their lives, but those of their families. And this is what persists in today's Guyana. The recent climate of horror, brutality, and crime has driven many to this point of fear. It is a real fear. We are now looking over our shoulders when we open our gates to go into our homes because we know not what lurks there. Daily persons are beaten, robbed, killed for their hard-earned belongings. The escalating crime wave continues to claim the lives of loved ones. The most vulnerable are rendered helpless in the face of blatant and unrepentant criminal activity. The elderly, of whom my colleague spoke. The children, the grandmother, remember the one who scaled the fence. The women, no one is spared. Persons have become deluged by feelings of paranoia and fear of becoming another statistic. Businesses are robbed, and yet people have to swallow constant loss and move on, hoping they can make ends meet every time they lose their small or large investments. And the response to that widespread cry of fear and pain, horses and dogs? Can't you see? It's not working. To even consider this as an answer is ludicrous. Guyanese people need protection, and they need it now. I am tired of the excuses and sickened by the reported and unreported cases of crime that affect my Guyanese brothers and sisters. It is not right. In the opposition, the current government, Mr. Speaker, they claimed that they had the answers. And now nearly 4 months into government, what have they done to stem the tide of crime? Mr. Speaker, I'm going to make a proposal here. I hope the members of this assembly will push this proposal forward and adopt it. I am asking simply that a fund be set up for the children and women, widows, grandmothers, family members, so that they can survive after their breadwinners would have been killed. I'm asking for that fund. You have approximately $800 million a day to spend in this budget. Please, I'm just asking for that. As someone who is always pleased when our citizens benefit in a holistic manner so that every facet of their life is improved, I meticulously scrutinized Budget 2015 for far-reaching social reforms, innovative new initiatives to improve the lives of our most vulnerable, efficient budgetary measures to provide effective answers to some of our most burdensome and debilitating problems: suicide, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, and unemployment. In the generally insipid and uninspiring budget document, decorated with a few bright sparks of fateful plagiarization or plagiarism of the PPP's vision, I made a startling and disturbing discovery. What was that discovery? I have to say, though, that my good colleague, Ms. Lawrence, honorable member, she tried her best to remedy that. Do you know, in the entire budget, the word women mentioned thrice. We have been ignored. We have been ignored. A fleeting mention of one of the most vulnerable and largest groups in this country. Mr. Speaker, not a woman-centric program or initiative is mentioned in that budget. In fact, women's developmental programs have been blatantly neglected. Instead, space has been given to fluff, bluff, and bluster, Mr. Speaker. No announcements of short-term empowerment initiatives, nor benefits for single mothers, Mr. Speaker. Imagine the Women of Worth program, a public-private partnership which facilitated a number of women with the wherewithal to start their own businesses, and in some cases to even expand their own businesses, and a lot of them would have done that. that has been scrapped. Where's the alternative? Tell me. I want to know. So when these women ask me, what's in the budget for me? I could say it, Mr. Speaker. Surely, women matter. And no one should have to scrutinize budget documents minutely to find what should be done or what is going to be done for one of the most vulnerable and important groups in our country. In a world where attention has been riveted on women empowerment in an effort to decrease their hardship, to alleviate their poverty, and to remove every social issue of their life, the Honorable Finance Minister has stated emphatically by his near silence that we do not matter, Mr. Speaker. He has told me and thousands of other women like me that we have been relegated to the back burner, much like his own female colleagues were relegated to the back burner. And then, as an afterthought, through a few ministers, a few members were brought into Parliament. The media has been replete with the voices of women activists. Mr. Speaker, why are they speaking? Because there's a paucity of women on state boards. 3. Maybe this government likes the number 3. 3 of 22 state boards chaired by women. Are you saying that there are no brilliant, capable, competent women in this country, Mr. Speaker? I'm affronted. I'm affronted for all the women who you're telling that to. But what other conclusion can I arrive at? The stench of neglect of our women folk permeates the budget, Mr. Speaker. Allocations towards major training programs for women and youth have been chopped unceremoniously. Much work has been done by the previous government to develop women in areas of leadership, the Guyana Women's Leadership Institute. Having been very much involved with that institute, I admire the rate at which women are churned out more than one time a year equipped in various areas so that they can be financially empowered. Like GWLI, like the Board of Industrial Training, and like the technical vocational educational programs, all of them get what? Less money, yet you have $800 million a day to spend. The government, that is, Mr. Speaker. Then there was that promise. Free education for all. Everyone has gone silent. I hear no mention of that anymore, Mr. Speaker. Are you going to go back to the University of Guyana students and tell them what happened to that promise, Mr. Speaker? Imagine, after all the talk of unemployment that exists, you even quoted a figure in your budget speech. You are now contributing to those figures of unemployment because this government has engaged in a macabre, wanton witch hunting dance. And what has emerged? What has emerged? More unemployment. Bread has been snatched from the mouths of families, of women, of youth, because you summarily dismiss them from their jobs. What is in it for the women and youth of this country? I say nothing. I say indignity, I say humiliation, and then to top it off, the bread, the salaries which they would have been earning removed from them. Imagine if it is in a single parent home and that mother was the only provider of the bread in her home. What happens to the children? Has anyone been thinking of all of these things, Mr. Speaker? An entire family is affected when someone loses his or her job. And when these mothers lose their source of income, do you think they'll be able to purchase the fresh carrots, the sausages, the yogurt? No, they need to survive. That doesn't even become an option, Mr. Speaker. Imagine the plight of the women and youth from the One Laptop for Our Family agency, the indigenous communities and other public service agencies who suffer the indignity and humiliation of callous removal from their jobs. The volte-face of the Honorable Minister Alicock yesterday left me in some shock. I read this and I think I'm reasonably analytical. Now, what is he saying? He's saying that the people who were removed, the indigenous, some 2,000 indigenous people who were removed, ripped from their source of income, there will be eligible for training. There's no guarantee there. They will be eligible for maybe employment, no guarantee. What are you saying there? I read it. All of you read it. And therefore, they were having $30,000 a month. That is real, that is tangible. What about the overzealous minister who swept or tried to sweep a few female members out of our ministry? You have some problems there, my honorable colleague. I wish you all the strength in the world. How will that woman provide for her child if she loses her job? How will the youth fulfill their potential and dreams if they have no job? I was told by a tearful mother, and we talk about labor laws, and I was impressed by the presentation of my fellow colleague, Ms. Burton. Talk about labor laws. A young office assistant in his first job is being removed from the office and put under a step. The mother brought her 21-year-old son to me from the east coast of Demerara. He's placed under a step. Rain, sun, sand, he's under that step. Can't go into the office, eats his food under there, conducts his business under a step because it is perceived that he supported the PPPC government. Shame. Then we have to hear members of the other side of the House, Mr. Speaker, tell us about they're employing people and qualifications are unnecessary. We have to watch an ostentatious inauguration ceremony. We have to see people
Honourable Member, you have 10 minutes remaining.
Flimsy grounds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Where is the equality? Where is the justice? Where is the humanity? Now the estimates approach. We want to know who this government is hiring. Who are they? What are their qualifications? Where are they going to be placed? What are they, contract workers? Who are they going to replace? Lots of questions are coming your way. What about the social issues which confront women on a daily basis? Yet, conspicuous silence in the budget speech. I heard some of these alluded to today by my honorable colleague. Sexual violence and abuse are disturbing realities in this country, yet the sexual violence unit has been dismantled, and not even in the budget speech warranted a mention. These dismissive actions, coupled with an unimaginative, ineffective budget, all highlight the glaring incompetence of this new government. Hungry women, angry women, fired women should not be taken lightly, Mr. Speaker. Oh, no.
Not at all.
Oh, my honorable finance minister, did you not consult with your female counterparts? I guess not.
No rule.
An afterthought.
Alcohol abuse has ravaged the lives of persons and families, and there is no strategic program to deal with this. Everyone knows I'm passionate on the issue of alcohol abuse, Mr. Speaker, and I'm willing to work to deal with this issue so that we can establish a structured program to benefit all of the Guyanese who suffer from this, so that we don't have to see the tragic loss of lives, or we don't have to see dysfunction in homes. Budget 2015 was singularly blinkered when it came to social reforms. Guyanese, young and old, received minimum increases in certain areas while solid support was yanked from their feet. There is talk about the old age pension. I heard talk about doubling the old age pension the last time. I would have agreed with that. I heard talk about $20,000 the last time, Mr. Speaker. I would have agreed with that. Give the people the $20,000 at least, what you promised the last time. Now that the shoe is on the other foot, make good on the promise. When we compare what was given and what is now, $990 water subsidy and $2,500 GPL subsidy, there were checks and balances because these were paid directly to GPL and GWLI. Now what have you attached to the existing sum of some $16,000 that the pensioners received with their pension plus their subsidy? You have only added $385. If that's not a patronizing pittance, I don't know what it is, Mr. Speaker. The give and take back mantra is pervasive. It pervades the entire budget. And also, I want to talk about public assistance. Public assistance is very important. And of course, we want that care and compassion to be extended to all those who require it. $600 of public assistance. Added on is added on, and not even from the beginning of the year. Shame, Mr. Speaker, shame. And this public assistance will be going to the medically and financially disadvantaged persons. Now you are saying you're going to remove the NIS cushioning effect by the PPPC government. That was to benefit the poorest people, Mr. Speaker. The poorest who do not comprise the public service. The poor shop girl, the carpenter, the fisherman, those people who fall outside the ambit of the public service. They don't benefit from your $50,000, yet they still have to pay NIS. So you've disenfranchised thousands of poor, underprivileged people, Mr. Speaker, and the Honorable Finance Minister. Is this the good life? Is this how you're going to spend $800 million so that you take most and somebody doesn't get an ice cream? Mr. Speaker, I want to say the economy has stagnated. There is talk about people feeling happy. Just walk down Regent Street, visit the shops and stores, and speak to the people there. I have been speaking to so many people. Not only the employers are crying out for business, but also the employees are suffering because of this stagnant economy, because they're being
Honourable
laid
member,
off.
you have 5 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is this the justice? Is this the equality? Is this the change that you preach? Is this the fresh approach? If all this damage has occurred in a short span of a few months, imagine what will happen by the time we get to next year. Businesses have ground to halt. I anticipate more persons will join the ranks of the unemployed, Mr. Speaker, if this untenable situation persists. Impositions have become the order of the day. Even the head of the GPSU has described the way in which sweepers and cleaners were dealt with as insensitive. There was no consultation. He has taken umbrage, and I forgot one of his words, inadequate and insensitive. And he registered the union's disappointment as to how this matter was addressed. If that gentleman, as a representative of the workers, can register his disappointment, are we saying imposition is the order of the day, Mr. Speaker? And there is lack of consultation. Imagine this government is touting the 2015 budget as the largest budget, giving them a whopping $800 million to spend daily. And public servants are told not only will the promised salary increase dwindle to 5% from the promised 20%, but they're not even going to be getting it retroactive to January 1. Absolute shame.
You have 3 minutes remaining.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about VAT. VAT? Well, there is a long list of VATable items. Let's talk about the Berbice Bridge toll. How is that filtering down to the commuter? What I've heard from the Honorable Minister of Finance sounds like a Blues Brothers record. Dismal promises, broken promises, and as soon as this government assumed offices, they rubbed it in the face of the faces of thousands of people right across Guyana. Budget 2015 adds to the prevailing frustration and displeasure of persons out there. Our country weeps. Its people, the elderly, man, woman, and child, are bewildered at the callousness displayed by this government. Remember, your measures not only impact on a family, but they impact on the whole country. You talk about the school uniform assistance of $1,500, but you have ripped away $10,000. Compare $840 million, which you would have allocated, to $1.6 billion, which was allocated previously.
Shameful.
We talk about investment, but don't confine investment to external investment. That's investment in our children. Not only would you have removed disposable income to families, but you've also removed it from the economy, because that money would have been spent in bookstores, paying a seamstress to make uniforms, and paying the small man to provide services. So that almost $2 billion is no longer in the economy. Every mother and father is bleeding and reeling from this fresh hurt. So I hope you understand, my honorable colleagues on that side of the House, of the havoc you've caused since your assumption of office. I believe, as members of this august House, we have a responsibility to all the people of Guyana to act in their best interests, to never diminish their hopes and dreams, Mr. Speaker. The process of consultation and dialogue must never be trivialized. I re-emphasize my party's call to work in a constructive environment. This certainly wasn't constructed so far, where we can share diverse perspectives, where we can make meaningful decisions for the benefit of every Guyanese, not some. We of the PPPC promise to work tirelessly, to continue to work tirelessly, representing all the people of the Guyana, to champion all of their causes, and yes, to hold this government, Mr. Speaker, accountable. Not only for the welfare of every Guyanese, but for the preservation of their dignity, their right to equal opportunity, free from the taint of political bullyism and marginalization, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that which the PPPC has fought so hard for, so hard, and I know it because I lived in a
I
world
remember you
where
have 1 minute to wrap up.
where a man gave his life, much of his life, for that. Democracy, Mr. Speaker. We want to see you maintain democracy in this beautiful country of ours. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, this is the time when we should take the suspension.